To borrow a page from Admiral Ernest King in World War II, we've decided to share the ocean with Iran. We've given them the bottom half.
Admiral King. That's a funny one. We share the ocean with him. The Ernest J. King. I think he was a 5-star admiral, wasn't he? I think he may have been our last 5-star in the history of the United States military. That's a funny line, though. We've decided to share the ocean with them. We'll give them the bottom half. The bottom half. That was the Secretary of the Department of War, Pete Hegseth, at the morning briefing at the Pentagon today, which he did along with the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who you may know. Not a 5-star, but a 4-star. Still pretty good. Pretty good, I got to say. Wah, wah, wah. That's right. We'll share the ocean with you. You can have the bottom half. That's like an Italian Navy joke. It probably was originally an Italian Navy joke, you know. Why does the new Italian Navy have glass-bottom boats? Why does the new Italian Navy have glass-bottom boats, is the old joke. And the answer is, everybody knows this, right? So they can see the old Italian Navy. It's why does the Italian Navy have glass-bottom boats? And now the Iranian Navy, they probably should have arranged for some glass-bottom boats too. What have we? How many have we sunk now? It's 150 or something like that, because more boats showed up, and then they had to go to the bottom because that's how that works. Well, a very good Thursday to you, and welcome back once again. We remain at 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. Again, the Pentagon briefing. Raisin Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, fighter jet, fighter pilot extraordinaire, and the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, who actually has been to war, which has not been the case for a lot of secretaries of defense for many decades. But setting that aside, amazing stuff. I tell you, I was poking around today doing my research and learning. Just go ahead and learning. And I was reminded that a story that from a month ago, and this is, Forbes magazine from February 20th of 2026. And the headline is, Trump says Iran death toll over 30,000 while considering military strikes. And President Trump, he expressed his disenchantment with the regime there, slaughtering their own people by the tens of thousands, which communists have done throughout much of my lifetime. And if you're older than me, then for much of your lifetime, the Soviet communists and the Chinese communists and the Pol Pot, hey, how's everything in Phnom Penh? Well, it's and the communists, they slaughter people by the millions. In my lifetime, in my parents' lifetime, and my grandparents' lifetime, they just slaughter people because it's what they do. And then the Islamists come along, and they really, I don't think they can hold a candle to the communists, but they'll do what they can, most certainly. Trump says Iran death toll a month ago, over 30,000 while considering military strikes. The Democrats are okay with governments, thuggish, authoritarian, especially theocratic governments. They love totalitarianism, the left does, and not a peep out of them. Well, you remember what they did over Hamas in Gaza? Gaza this and Gaza that. And, of course, George Floyd. It's the old Joseph Stalin line that the Democrats put into practice all the time, that a single death is a tragedy. 1 million deaths are a statistic. And that's a Joseph Stalin line because he was murdering millions of people, of his own people. And then they got off to murdering millions of people elsewhere, too, because that's what the left has always done. And the left here is the Democrat Party. But we got that going. And President Trump was not happy about the fact that they were slaughtering tens of thousands of their own people, that this terrorist oppressive regime in Iran was allowed to just go on and on, chugging along, because, the Democrats, we got all that. But President Trump, he was upset about that then, and now the Democrats, they're still in favor of letting the Iranian regime go ahead because they're not on our side. Boy, are they not on our side. Just extraordinary how much they're not on our side. And I'm not sure what the number of Americans is at this point that have lost their lives. I think it's about 12 Americans have been killed in this war so far. And toppling the tyrants of the world was never an easy task, a light lift. But I went and I looked, the great website. Hey Jackass is the name of the website. And they track and document the number of people shot and killed in Chicago, the number of people shot and wounded in Chicago. And I just looked at this military campaign under President Trump's leadership started. When did it start? On the 28th, I think, the day before March started, the month of March started. And in the month of March, they've had, in Chicago alone, run by Democrats, 19 people shot and killed in the city of Chicago. This month alone, 19 people shot and killed, with an additional 55 shot and wounded. And it's a war zone, Chicago is, because Democrats, they love death more than you love life. That's the old Al-Qaeda saying. The Al-Qaeda saying was, we love death more than you love life. I think the Democrat Party might be sued for copyright infringement by Al-Qaeda. That could happen. I'm telling you, you people. So we got this thing has been ongoing now for about 20 days, and it is intended, I believe, to end the terrorist regime in Tehran, which has been waging a low-level asymmetric war against the United States since 1979 and against civilization more broadly, also since 1979, because they're a radical Islamic theocracy, a terrorist government, radical Islamic jihadi terrorist government. Oh, yeah, speaking of which, I believe today is the end of Ramadan, isn't it? Ramalama Ding Dong. It's the end of Ramalama Ding Dong. I think that's right. And then you have the Eid al-Fitr. I've been invited to an Eid or two in my building. Old Arab Muslim guy, neighbor, great guy, U.S. government employee, had us over for his Eid al-Fitr, and I brought the sparkling apple cider. I brought the Martinelli's sparkling apple. You can't have champagne, even though it's a celebration, but you can imitate it with Martinelli's sparkling apple cider. It's pretty good for occasions like that. But the end of Ramadan, does that mean more killing, more bombings, more? What does that mean? We'll have to go and ask our Islamic scholar. We'll have to ask our resident Islamic scholar. Michael, who is our resident Islamic scholar? That's me. I think it might be me. We've got that. But also, this is an amazing story from the New York Post because they actually cover the news. Children of Iran regime leaders teaching at elite U.S. universities. And liberals that run American universities, they hire the 30 and 40-year-old children of the Iranian terrorist regime to become teachers and professors at U.S. college campuses because they're indoctrinating the next generation of suicide bombers. It might explain why so many Democrats are self-immolating outside the Israeli embassy and self-immolating outside of the Donald Trump trial in New York and self-immolating in front of the Supreme Court on Earth Day and suicide attacks against Republican members of Congress playing baseball, practicing baseball, and targeting President Trump repeatedly with rifles and suicide attacks. A lot of suicide. There have been in the last 5 years more Democrat suicide attacks in the United States than there have been radical Islamic jihadi suicide attacks in the United States. I believe that number to be correct. Right? And I haven't, named the radical Islamic jihadi suicide attacks. I can tick off a whole bunch of Democrat Party suicide attacks where they kill themselves. That's what a suicide attack is. We got that. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Also, funny, the Babylon Bee, the people of the Babylon Bee are hilarious. And here is the Ayatollah in the middle of the desert with a life-size cardboard cutout of David Hasselhoff running toward him in his orange swimsuit with his floaty device there because he's a lifeguard, And the Babylon Bee headline, Trump lures gay Ayatollah out of hiding with cardboard cutout of David Hasselhoff because he's gay, you see. So, of course, he would want to meet David Hasselhoff. So there it is. And the Babylon Bee, funny guys at the Babylon Bee. They're funny. That's right. I called them guys. They don't do girl humor at the Babylon Bee. They do. But there's Hasselhoff running out of the desert toward the new Ayatollah, who is reportedly a gay man, which makes it funny because he's going to have to kill himself when he becomes Ayatollah, and that will be hilarious. Come on, that'll be genius. It'll be great stuff. Also, have you seen? We got our neighbor Jamie Raskin. There's a Democrat member of the House of Representatives in the state of Maryland by the name of Jamie Raskin, and he's a real rascal. He's a mental case. He's a leftist. He is not an honest person, and he's out there. What is he saying today, Michael? That our founding fathers, the authors of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the Bill of Rights, that they're illegal aliens. He's calling them illegal aliens because they love illegal alien gang members that are covered with gang tattoos that want to rape children. The Democrats wave them in and give them sandwiches and T-shirts, and they get coupons for lunch and things. The Democrats love crime, and because of Democrats, we have a lot more crime because they love crime and they have a certain amount of political power. But Jamie Raskin, he's a Democrat congressman. Yeah, the founding fathers. And then he said, you're calling our founding fathers illegal aliens? And he says, no. That's not what I called them. I didn't call them illegal aliens. I called them undocumented immigrants. That's it. He said he ought to be gassed, honestly, the guy. We should set up a rail spur just for him. This guy is unbelievable. That's right, a rail spur. This guy is unbelievable. And he's out there saying that the founding fathers of the United States of America, they weren't citizens. They were undocumented immigrants. That's what he said. The Democrat Party is going to break away into the Confederate States of America again. They're going to reestablish their capital in Richmond, Virginia, which they already have with these ridiculous people that they've elected in the Commonwealth of Virginia, a formerly great state. Now an embarrassment. I got to tell you, I've always lived in D.C. I've lived in D.C. for more than 30 years, well over 30 years now. And my best girl, she's been here for not that long, but a long time too. And always, politics being politics, always it's been a topic of discussion. Wouldn't you rather live in Virginia? And now I got to say, the playing field has been leveled. Virginia is now the same as D.C., essentially the same as D.C. They're pretty amazing stuff. But it turns out that Jamie Raskin, who says that the founding fathers are illegal aliens, except he uses the left-wing communist language. Oh, no, they're undocumented immigrants. Yeah, that's Democrat speak in the English, the liberal to English translation dictionary. That means he's calling our founding fathers illegal aliens and using the Democrat lexicon. And it turns out that Jamie Raskin's father, a commie, a famous commie forever, Marcus Raskin, and he spent his entire adult lifetime advocating for the Soviet Union. And then you ask him if he's a communist, and he lied about it. He said, no, I'm a progressive, and I spend my life fighting on behalf of the Soviet Union here in the United States in favor of the geopolitical goals of the USSR. Jamie Raskin's father, now he's a Democrat member of Congress, and he is out here saying that the founding fathers in the United States of America were undocumented immigrants, which is Democrat speak for illegal aliens. They love illegal aliens, but they hate the founding fathers. More Democrats, more murder. More Democrats, more crime. More Democrats, more gangs, because Democrats. I got that. I want to share. I have the audio of Jamie Raskin. Yeah, the undocumented immigrants founding father. What a rectal aperture this man is. And I mean no insult to medical procedures of any kind. Isn't that amazing? Also in Daytona Beach, in Florida, spring break, a lot of Democrats showed up. You'll never guess the other details. And they go to the beach and shoot people because spring break ain't what it used to be. You know, it's not Tammy Tell Me True anymore. Now it's crack and guns, because Democrats have made everything better. I've got an update for you on Cesar Chavez, too, the child-raping Democrat hero. The United Farm Workers founder, and turns out he spent his entire adult lifetime as a child rapist, which just put him in good with the Democrat Party. So he got that. And now I got a couple of things going on here. They named the Navy, named a ship after Cesar Chavez. And now that he is a canceled child sex abuser, maybe even the U.S. Navy is going to have to strip the name of Cesar Chavez off of the Navy ship, a U.S. Navy ship. So we've got that going. And the stand-up, this is a crazy story. The stand-up comedian, turns out he wasn't very funny. He's a killer, stand-up comedian, murderer. And did you see Kamala Harris with her transgender big man impersonating her with a mustache, and they're hanging out together and having a good old time. Membership in the Democrat Party is a mental illness, and we are at 888-630-9625. I see there are people on the line want to talk about Jamie Raskin. We want to play the audio of Jamie Raskin and his communist father. And that's right, the founding fathers of the United States of America were illegal aliens, according to this crusty rectal aperture. But in the meantime, let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to let's see. Let's go to Chuck calling from the great state of Tennessee. Charles, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hello there, Mr. Plant. Thank you
Chuck.
very much for taking my call.
You bet.
I've talked to you before. I'm your former submarine sailor, private pilot.
Excellent.
You never met somebody who went on subs and then flew planes, too.
That is crazy. Going low, going
Yes,
high.
Sir. Yeah, I got a couple jokes. You said it was pretty good. It's like one of them was, well, how do you sink an Iranian ship? It's quite simple. You put it in water.
There you go. There's
And
one.
then, yeah, and then there's only two types of ships that I know of since I was on submarines. There are submarines and there's targets.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good submarine joke, torpedoing. And we just had a Los Angeles-class submarine sink a ship recently in the Arabian Sea, didn't we?
Yes, we did. I looked at that video quite extensively, and they probably used the Mark 48, which is we tested those in the 70s, and we actually shot the first. The boat I was on actually shot the first successful Tomahawk from a submarine. That took 6 months to do that.
Cool.
That was quite an ordeal, but we did do it successfully. But I glanced at that and took a look, and the torpedoes are designed to break the back of the ship right in the center. But if you look at that ship, all the strength is in the center and in the front. So they said, okay, let's just knock the ass end off of it.
That probably works too, I'm thinking. The Gayatollah. Can you still call him Khomeini when he's the Gayatollah? Things are getting weird in the world, aren't they? Yeah, speaking of getting weird in the world, I want to get to Congressman Jamie Raskin, he's weird in the world, and his father was a pro-Soviet communist who lied about being a communist, but communists always lie about everything. Just look at the Democrats, and now we got. I can't wait to get to their hero, Cesar Chavez. Cesar, you have to say Cesar Chavez, and turns out he's a career child rapist his whole adult life, and everybody knew it, and the Democrats are okay with that. But let's get back because I want to get to the Raskin thing. Let's go to the telephones, right? I see people calling in on this and other subjects, but let's go to Mike. Calling from South Riding, Virginia. Michael, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi, Chris. Good morning.
Hey.
Jamie Raskin, who for some reason, looking at him, I think of Larry Fine. But anyway.
Of the Three Stooges.
Yes. I call him Larry Fine.
Yeah, Larry Fine, sure. Mo Larry Curly.
Yeah. And he's certainly not a Mo, and he's not a Curly. Anyway.
Well, I can't speak to the first, but go ahead.
Anyway, the founding fathers were British citizens, okay, and they declared independence from Britain, which probably under British law made them traitors. But they hadn't formed the government yet, and they hadn't, come up with any immigration rules. So they weren't illegal immigrants. The Democrat Party loves to come up with a propaganda line. Like Goebbels said, you repeat a lie often enough, it becomes a truth.
Right.
They come up with a lie for the moron Democrat voters, and they repeat it and repeat it and repeat it endlessly until the Democrat voters go, oh, it must be true.
Right.
And there's also other voters out there who can't think for themselves, and they end up believing it too.
Right.
Anyway, the caller you had of the submariner, there's another, when I worked Navy contracts, a surface warfare officer once told me, he says it's easier to sink a ship by letting water in through the bottom than it is air out the top. And I thought that was kind of funny when he said it.
That's a science a joke of sorts. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's another one. There's two types of engineers in the world. There's weaponeers, which make weapons, and there's civil engineers, which make targets. Anyway, I just wanted to call in about Jamie Raskin. He's a moron, but then anybody who votes Democrat is one as well. So
it's pretty much turned out that way, and you're absolutely right. Of course, correct, historically correct. Unlike the congressman who was raised by a pro-Soviet communist who lied about being a communist. Yeah, the founding fathers were British citizens who came to the United States in the time of colonial occupation by the British Crown. And our founders were the first in the history of humankind to break away from a monarchy the way that they did, and it really got the ball rolling for the French Revolution, where they started cutting everybody's head off and all that stuff. But then the monarchies in Europe had to start worrying very, very much because of what the founders did here in what is now the United States of America. But you're right, they were British citizens, and so when they came to what is now the United States of America, they came as British citizens to a British colonial holding, and they didn't need papers like these fascists are demanding now, like Jamie Raskin. But I tell you, Mike, if you want to hang out for a minute, we've got the Jamie Raskin audio, because Jamie Raskin was, and in his official capacity, a pretty extraordinary thing. The Jamie Raskin, Greg Price posted it online on Twitter, and Thomas Paine, well, I'll just let you listen to it, Mike, because nobody can say it better than Jamie Raskin himself.
Tom Paine, who was an undocumented immigrant who came to this land in 1774, 2 years before the Revolution, and wrote Common Sense.
The member said, I think his opening sentence was, he said Thomas Paine was an illegal immigrant. My understanding was Mr. Paine was born in the UK, came to America, then a British colony in 1774. So I was just struggling to figure out how he was.
Oh, I didn't say he was an illegal immigrant. I said he was an undocumented immigrant, just like Thomas Jefferson's family was. Most of our ancestors did not arrive here with documents.
Documents. See, there it is, Mike.
Yeah.
This is the size of his brain. Honestly, he should be expelled from Congress just for that exchange. That was in an actual hearing room on Capitol Hill yesterday. And this is the United States government under Democrats. They're mentally ill. He should be probably incarcerated, dragged away, face down by his ankles, handcuffed behind his back, down the stone steps of the Capitol, I think, would be the funniest part. Then we could bring the Three Stooges back into it because that's good. But
hey, I have one more thing, if you can take my
you
statement.
Bet. Of course.
You mentioned his Raskin's father is a communist, and he's I'm a progressive. Well, the late David Horowitz, who was a former communist, he wrote a book called Left Illusion.
Yeah.
And in it, in the front part of the book, his father was, Horowitz's father was a communist, and all their friends were communists. And Horowitz even said, it got to the point where, communism was like a bad word in the United States. So they said, let's call ourselves progressives. And this is back in the, I think it was the 50s or 60s when they came up with the term. So anyway, when you hear progressive, progress to a Democrat means total control. That's progress.
Yeah.
Human free will is not progress. That's, to them, that's anarchy. everybody must be controlled. So anyway, thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, Mick, that's why we're here, man. This is democracy in action. This is America in action. The Democrats have been trying to murder talk radio all along because they don't believe in free speech and open debate. They believe in totalitarianism. Mike, thank you very much. Good stuff. And Mike called in and he was going to say a thing that Congressman Jim Jordan was going to say in the soundbite, and I know Jim Jordan was going to say it, but I wanted to let Mike say it first because Mike's not a member of Congress and Jim Jordan is, so not a member of Congress goes to the front of the line. And isn't this guy? I mean, I just got Jamie Raskin. What a clown!
Oh, I didn't say he was an illegal immigrant. I said he was an undocumented immigrant.
And he punches undocumented. Like this makes a difference. Everybody he talks to is so stupid that they fall for this stuff. Every Democrat that hangs out with the likes of Jerry Raskin and, we don't call ourselves communists anymore, and now we're progressives. And I got to say, Mike, they call Woodrow Wilson, Democrat President Woodrow Wilson, World War I, they call him a progressive Democrat. And he, of course, was a racial segregationist and a racist and a progressive left-wing Democrat racist. And, the Democrat Party was the party. It wasn't too far away. Yeah, think about it. World War I, after the Civil War, 1865 to started in 1914 in Europe. We didn't get until a little later, but isn't that amazing? The Democrat Party. And David Horowitz is a great, Michael mentioned David Horowitz also, a great thinker and author and columnist. And he, again, raised in a commie leftist, and he became one of America's leading super leftists, David Horowitz. And then he grew up and came to his senses. And now he's one of the great voices when it comes to explaining the horrors of leftism. David Horowitz, I don't know that I've ever met him. I don't think if I have ever met him, it was a long, long time ago. But I've always liked David Horowitz as an adult once he grew up, a great adult. And look, a lot of us grew up in a time when, being lefty was cool and not being lefty was not cool. But these guys, can I just say, these guys, what's the matter with them? Man, oh man! I see we got people calling in about Raskin and all the gang there. And let's go because I love the topic of Jamie Raskin. He's such a snake, a weasel. He is everything wrong with Jamie Raskin, and I pointed it out for a long, long time. Because, yes, sir, the Democrat Party. And that's, I whipped up the Joseph Goebbels quote, too, because our brilliant listeners that call in always sharing historical references, and the Joseph Goebbels repeat a lie often enough, and it becomes the truth. That's Joseph Goebbels, or as the Reverend Al Charlatan likes to refer to him.
Did I hear you correctly say that perhaps he was influenced by Goebbels and the Third Reich in terms of telling a big lie? I just want to make sure that's what I heard you say.
I just want to make sure that's what I heard you say. And that's the Reverend Al Charlatan. The Democrat Party is definitely a mental illness. Yeah, and... this I always use the Goebbels quote. I guess I learned it as a child. The Goebbels quote is, a lie told once remains a lie. A lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth. But either way, it conveys the same message. And it is the Democrat Party's message, which it doesn't matter how absurd the lie is. They don't know. We got a Supreme Court justice who's a woman who doesn't know what a woman is because of the Democrat Party and the mental illness that they spread to everyone that they touch, just like monkeypox, which they really like spreading too. In fact, they like spreading that even more. Oh, we've got more stories of Democrat child molesters too and sexual abusers there. These people are quite amazing, aren't they? Yes, they are. All right, let's go back to the telephones because I see what's going on here. Let's go to, let's see, Let's go to Sue calling from Damascus, Maryland, on line number 4. Sue, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, good morning, Chris.
Hi.
I've known Jamie Raskin for over 30 years. When he was in the Maryland legislature, and now, of course, he's in Congress. The thing is that if you ever want to get him apoplectic, mention his father Marcus to him. One of the biggest communists ever in this country. But in the 2000 election, Jamie Raskin was investigated seriously by the FBI, nearly arrested, nearly lost his law license because he had created a vote-selling scheme called Nader's Traders. And it was, Ralph Nader was running in the 2000 election. And this guy is so horribly corrupt. And if you take a minute and look into this investigation about Nader's Traders, I don't understand why he's even allowed to be in Congress. I don't get it. But he is the most corrupt. His father, Marcus, went over to Moscow with Ted Kennedy, tried to subvert the Reagan administration, and he should not be quoted or anything. He's basically a crook.
Well, that's why he is beloved by the Democrat Party and the American news media, but I repeat myself, and why. Listen, Sue, when you're a Democrat, all of that just washes off. None of that sticks. It only sticks when you're a Republican.
I know, and I used to be a Democrat. I tell people I used to be a Democrat, but now I'm an American. Yeah,
that's good progress. See, now that's the kind of progress that we should be asking for from progressives, isn't it?
Yes.
Just extraordinary. Now, I've got to say, I did not recall the Nader's Traders and Jamie Raskin and the Democrats, and they're constantly trying to find new ways to undermine the United States of America, right?
Yeah, and it was a scheme where, well, you can look it up and read it about, states that were going to go one way, and then you would swap or sell your votes to another state that was going to go another way. And why he was allowed to continue to be a law professor at American University says a lot about American University. But now, of course, he's a Maryland congressman, which they had to redistrict and gerrymander to get him a spot. And, but he was in the Maryland legislature, which I like to call the General Asylum.
Yeah.
and he was he was the biggest proponent, but his history in communism and anti-Americanism really ought to be looked into. I've read online there's a couple of independent reporters that are looking into the money, the $30 million that has shown up with Jamie Raskin. Well, they ought to investigate his whole story and his family story, because he is a horrible human being. He used to be my congressman, and we can't even get anybody in my district to actually live in the district. But he really should be investigated big time into what kind of ties he has with foreign nations and where did that $30 million come from?
Well, I can tell you he has not spent it on dental work. I can tell you that much. Sue, thank you. Thank you for the call. Maybe you should get something done about that. And since you mentioned American University and the college and all that, here's the headline in the New York Post today. Children of Iran's regime leaders are educating America's students at colleges from New York to Los Angeles. That is coming up.
Most of our ancestors did not arrive here with documents.
All right, a lot more crazy Democrat stuff to get to. Yeah, the founding fathers were, they're not illegal immigrants. They're undocumented immigrants, according to the Democratic Party. I wonder how the Democrats feel about their slaves. Were they undocumented, or were they, because the Democrat Party is the party of slavery in the Confederate States of America? Should ask Jamie Raskin what he thinks about that. Let's go to the telephones. Let's see. Let's go to Danny, calling from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Daniel, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, good morning, Chris. Thanks for taking my call.
Hey, Danny.
It seems to me that Maryland and Virginia right now are in a competition to see who can expose the biggest idiot in their government. I mean, we got Chris Van Hollen and Wes Moore in Maryland. Now Jamie Raskin threw his hat in the ring. But, you got Governor Spanberger, Stacey Kincaid, the sheriff of Fairfax County, Steve Descano, the Commonwealth attorney. And years ago, they had a lady by the name of Kate Hanley who got on a radio program and said that she was on a program with Doug Duncan, the Montgomery County executive, talking to someone on a different radio program called Ask the County Executive. Uh-huh. And they were like, the D.C. needed to build another bridge across the river. And Fairfax County doesn't have a bridge that crosses into D.C. And Maryland doesn't have any bridges that cross into D.C. And I called in and said, this is a conversation that should be held between the mayor and the Arlington County supervisor. And I said, because Fairfax County has no bridges. She says, we have the Wilson Bridge. I said, no, sweetie, you don't. It goes from PG into the city of D.C., into the city of Alexandria, and Fairfax County doesn't pick up the Van Dorn Street. You need to look at a map.
Yeah.
But I said, where are you going to get this bridge? You're going to get it from the guy that sold Jack his beanstalk beans and fly it into place overnight, and voila, it's there? How is that going to impact the traffic coming down both sides of the parkway? And she was just like, Democrats are dumb. They don't think before they open their pie hole. It is insanely funny. But on the other side of the coin, it's sad. It is absolutely sad.
Well, it is, and you're absolutely right. You started ticking them off. They have the idiot senator in Maryland that loves MS-13 gang members, and Chris Van Hollen going down there, and Wes Moore, who lies about everything, and Steve Descano.